Well, this is the issue right here, and this is why the Bulls are so good. They have like 5 or 6 guys that can rebound the ball and get out in transition, and they have to match up. The Lakers have been struggling against teams in transition. And Lonzo Ball, you want to talk about an improvement from his days in the Lakers uniform to now his three-point shot's immaculate.
Well, Russell Westbrook has been showing some improvements, but not quite there, Richard. The Lakers, look at this. They're going to have 3 defenders here out in front of Zach LaVine.
Well, this is what happens. You're so worried about those guys that are trailing, you forget that they've got Zach, they got DeMar, they got a bunch of guys that can go one-on-one at any point in time, and it's just very, very difficult when you look at the versatility that the Bulls bring.
Well, we're still in the third quarter. The Bulls are up 77-62. DeMar DeRozan doing what he did all night long. DeRozan had a game-high 38 points.
Yeah, come over, get that work too. He crushed the LAs. He killed the Clippers. He killed the Lakers. Good for DeMar DeRozan.
Well, check this out, though. Anthony Davis is later in the quarter. The Lakers are down by 20. Can't get the control the lob. Shoe can't get it on. Ooh. And he is ejected.
With the gusto.
And now, look, this is the rule. I know a lot of people, yes, it's a little confusing, but ultimately the referee cannot stop a fast break unless it's the final 2 minutes of the game to put on a shoe.
Absolutely. Well, the Lakers lose. Here's DeMar DeRozan afterwards.
People saying I was washed for the last few years. The narrative won't fit. I mean, I can find all type of chips that, I use that's my motivation, just being counted out, being looked over. So many chips that's on my shoulder that I carry and just want to be a winner and, just want to enjoy this ride.
I think he's playing with a chip on his shoulder. I think a lot of people kind of counting him out, saying he's on the back end of his career, but this is probably one of his best years that he's had in the NBA. And we're just happy to have him on the team.
Is this team as good as its record says?
Yeah, I think we are one of the top teams in the NBA. Obviously, we still got a long way to go. A lot to improve on, but like I said, we're moving in the right direction.
So the Lakers dropped to 4-5 without LeBron this season compared to 4-2 in the 6 games that he's played, and they're allowing nearly 5 more points per game when James doesn't play, and their 3-point percentage has also been affected by his absence. So the Bulls, they completed the Los Angeles sweep. Compton native DeMar DeRozan, he just showed out 73 points combined between the Clippers and Lakers games. Richard, when you're looking at DeMar, you heard him say, I'm playing with a little bit of chip on his shoulder, all that chatter in the offseason. Why is he playing so well right now?
I think there's a level of freedom that DeMar DeRozan has right now. You got to understand, he left Toronto in a very emotional way. He went to San Antonio, and now he has an opportunity to pick. This is the first time he was a free agent, where he gets to decide where he wants to go, the players that he wants to play with, the city that he wants to be in. And I think he just taken all of those chips and all of those things that has kind of been lingering and kind of hovering over him, and he's playing with a new level of freedom.
First of all, we need to have an emergency summit about the word washed. Nobody said DeMar DeRozan was washed.
I didn't say that.
There was not one person who said DeMar DeRozan was washed. Was there some skepticism about his fit and his mid-range? Sure, but not washed. Look, the question everyone had about the Bulls when they combined DeRozan, LaVine, and Vucevic was, how is this team going to defend? Well, they defend. They're 4th in defense, and I'll say this, Malika, you and I were at the game. Of all the teams I've seen in person, they gained the most watching them in person because you felt just how up in people's faces Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso are, how fast they transition from one end of the court to the other. They just are playing ferocious basketball. And the other thing that stood out, they really like playing with each other. They're rooting for each other, trying to set each other up. Right. It's easy to do that when you're winning.
But you also got to talk about Caruso leading the league in steals and what he's been doing.
He and Lonzo.
They've been adding Lonzo and Caruso have helped that defensive pairing of DeMar, Zach, and Vucevic.
Well, and speaking of liking to play with each other, JJ, we heard DeMar say that Zach LaVine wanted him to go for 40, but he's like, I'm too tired, man. What have you seen from DeMar DeRozan in Chicago?
I have a question first, actually. How big does Perk's head look to y'all?
Oh,
from my vantage point,
thank you.
From my vantage point in New York, mine is like, God, I don't know. I'm like 30%.
Thank you. Welcome, JJ. That'll be the last time I agree with someone from Duke, but go ahead.
Well, look, I think DeMar made a huge leap in playmaking when he was in San Antonio. It sort of went unnoticed. Last year, he averaged a career high in assists. To me, this is the most complete we've seen DeMar as an offensive player. He's even added in 2.5 threes per game, shooting it at 37%. We've seen seasons where he's completely ignored the three-point line. So he's sort of doing everything right now. If you were to have an MVP power rankings as of today, I'd put DeMar DeRozan 3rd after Steph and KD.
Interesting. Hey, Perk, is your head okay?
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm gonna give JJ a pass today, man, because this is my guy, and this is our first time. I was gonna sing "Just Let Your
today.
Soul Glow."
Just today. Just for today.
He got the spoon to the left. I wasn't gonna get on there today. I was just gonna talk about the Lakers.
Okay.
Since everybody's talking about Bulls, and rightfully so, can we talk about how disgusting the Lakers look?
We can
right
talk
now?
about it. We can talk about it. We'll get to it, Perk. Give me just one more second with the Chicago Bulls because they were that good. They're 10-4, which is tied for second in the East. So I just want to ask JJ, what makes this team so tough to play against?
Well, as Zach alluded to, I think it's their defensive pressure up front. Adding Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso has been great for them. Alex Caruso, to me, is one of the most underrated free agency additions this past offseason. The Lakers miss him, and he's been tremendous for the Bulls. He doesn't have to score to impact a game. He's so disruptive on defense, and he's been absolutely great for them.
Perk, I know you're champing at the bit here, so come on, let me have it. What were your takeaways from the Lakers side last night?
Well, the Lakers are supposed to look like the Bulls are looking right now. And here's the thing that bothers me the most about the Lakers. You have a group of veteran guys that have come together for one goal and one goal only, and that's to win the championship. And when I watch the Lakers play, I don't see that. And obviously, it's the obvious plays of them not being able to knock down three-point shots. But as we saw in the film that Richard was talking about, we didn't see them getting back in transition. We don't see the Lakers making the hockey assist. And to those out there that don't know what the hockey assist is, that's actually the pass that leads to the assist for the bucket. We see a lot of hero my-turn basketball on the offensive end where they take shots at the basket and you're like, what are you doing? And then defensively, they're just not there, right? Their perimeter defense is not there. It starts with Russell Westbrook. He has to be the leader on that side of the ball by getting into the ball, getting up over screens, setting some type of tone. If Alex Caruso could go out there, and I'm not discrediting him because I love what he brings to the table, but if Alex Caruso could go out there and have an impact on the game by getting into the ball, doing the little things that doesn't show up on the stat sheet, and Russell Westbrook is just as athletic as Alex Caruso and not doing those same little things that don't show up in the stat sheet but equals to winning, then that's a problem for the Lakers. I just don't understand how you have a group of veterans that can't come together and sacrifice and show and play winning basketball on a consistent basis.
Well, look, Perk is telling the truth here. The one thing that I will say about this Laker team is that you know they have the pieces. The hardest thing, in my opinion, is to get the talent that is needed to be successful. Obviously, they're missing LeBron James. Obviously, they've had injuries to Kendrick Nunn, to THT, Trevor Ariza. They've had a ton of injuries. But the flip side of this is also the softest part of their schedule. And some of the losses that they have are against teams that have a quarter of the amount of talent, even with all of those players missing. And so that, to me, is the most, disheartening thing about where the Lakers are right now.
Feels like they haven't played a road game yet the whole season. I'm going to say something nice. Taylor Horton-Tucker played well.
He did.
That's a nice thing. I'll tell you what was striking. The Lakers have Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis on their team, 2 future Hall of Famers.
Top 75.
There was not 1 second in last night's game where they looked nearly the Bulls equal. The Bulls were just way better than the Lakers. And that underscores to me, like, they need MVP level LeBron. They're just not very good without LeBron. And LeBron is reaching a point in his career. We've seen the injuries start to happen. He's third all time in minutes. There's no precedent for a player that has played this many minutes. There's no precedent for LeBron, period. But there's no precedent for a player playing this many minutes being a top 3 or 4 player in the NBA. That's what they need, because you can show me THT, Ariza, Nunn. Those are all solid players. They're not changing your life as a team. This team without LeBron just looks disorganized and not very good.
Well, speaking of LeBron James, he's been out for 2 weeks, and senior NBA insider Adrian Wojnarowski joins us now for an update on his status. So, Woj, the Lakers have 2 games on ESPN the remainder of this week, tomorrow in Milwaukee against the Bucks, and then Friday in Boston against the Celtics. When might we see LeBron James back on the court?
Malika, I'm told that there's some real optimism that LeBron James may return on Friday against Boston. Certainly, as you said, they start this 5-game trip in Milwaukee. He started to do He's been back on the court. He's not gone 5-on-5 yet. He's not had contact on the practice court with his teammates. Frank Vogel talked about that yesterday, but he has progressed that abdominal strain that's kept him out, as you said, for over 2 weeks, Malika, that there's optimism now that he'll make his return on Friday in Boston against the Celtics, of course, on ESPN.
Okay, so Friday, potentially. Thank you so much, Woj. I do want to bring in JJ Redick back into the mix. JJ, I am curious, how much of what is wrong with the Lakers do you think LeBron James is going to fix by just being back in the lineup?
Well, he's going to fix a lot of it. And look, I get the addition of Russell Westbrook. I think the idea there was to take some of the playmaking responsibilities off of LeBron throughout the regular season. They've got 82 games to figure it out until the playoffs. But the one thing bringing LeBron back is not going to fix is they don't have a consistent elite shooter. And that, to me, is what they're missing the most. They're missing that spacing. If those three guys are going to play together, along with THT on the court a lot with them, they need shooting, and they don't have that right now. Consistent
elite shooter? Is there someone in this two box who fits that frame? Because it ain't me. Are you?
Well, there's one sitting at home in New York City, actually.
Oh, yeah, well, Richard was trying to get in on that, but we're like, no, he's.
We know it ain't Perk.
We know it ain't Perk. Oh, bless him. We know it ain't Perk. Thank you so much for joining us, JJ. But please stick around. We need you for Nets Warriors coming up a little bit later in the show. The Bulls being incredibly dangerous out in transition. That's what caught my eye yesterday. But then in the press conference, did y'all see Lonzo's chain?
Yo, he was blinging. That's what you got to do in LA. You got to bring it.
Do you have that, Zach?
Zach got a chain.
Did you say yo, he was blinging? Like as a verb, blinging?
Hot.
Yeah, look, sometimes you just got to make it up as you go, Zach.
Okay.
So that means you're unfamiliar. You don't have the.
Look at that.
Look at that.
Oh, the turnover train, Debo.
But then, yeah, in comparison, I'm not sure.
I feel like one is real, one isn't.
I don't know. But I did ask Lonzo on the way out. I said, how heavy is that? And he said, oh, it's pretty heavy.
Is it better than his brother's?
Well, that's kind of the toss.
I don't want him to wear something heavy around his neck.
He had shoes that matched. All right, coming up on NBA Today, the Mavs got a big win last night versus Denver, but did they lose Luka Doncic in the process? Live update on the Dallas Star, and Kyle Kuzma has been showing out for the Wizards this season, but more importantly, he joins the show. Just how big